Hey, what's up? This is an edit from the 9/11 Commission. Panelist Bob Kerrey is interviewing the FAA's acting director, Monte Belger, about the FAA's response in the initial hours of the hijackings on September 11, 2001. Let's hear what we have to say.
Senator Kerrey.
They have to say.
Well, first of all, let me say, Matt, I think this is a situation very much like Secretary Lehman just said, where at the local level, there was people responded with great heroism and took action that was appropriate under the circumstances, way beyond what most of us would have been able to do, including being able to get 4,500 airplanes out of the air without a single incident. So, New York, Boston, Cleveland, the ones that we've looked at, you guys did a fabulous job. But I'm with Secretary Lehman, Mr. Belger, and I think headquarters blew it. And I appreciate that Garvey is one with the responsibility, but as I understand it, she delegates significant authority to you as a 30-year career professional. So I'm going to turn my attention to you if you want to disabuse me of that notion in answering the first question. The first question is, following up on Senator Gordon, having to do with this conversation that occurred, the teleconference that NMCC initiated. How in God's name could you put somebody on the telephone who joined the call with no familiarity or responsibility for a hijacked situation, had no access to decision makers, and had none of the information available to senior FAA officials at that time? What the hell's going on that you would do such a thing? And don't blame that on me. Who did that? Who put somebody on the phone that was not able to participate, but not able to tell at a very late date, I must say, the military what was going on?
I don't know. I don't know, as I said, who the NMCC tried to call. What I will say...
No, that's not the question. Somebody joined the call.
The NMCC call.
No, an FAA representative joined the call who knew nothing, had no responsibility for hijack situation, had no access to decision makers, and none of the information available to senior FAA officials.
It is my understanding that was an NMCC call.
By the way, the NMCC is the National Military Command Center. So, in other words, the FAA has a bunch of protocols that they have to follow. And I think at this time, what I'm going to do is I want to share screen regarding civil aviation defense securities. So this way you can have a better understanding about what Kerrey is actually admonishing Belger for. So this is from staff statement number 3 of the 9/11 Commission report, headliner, civil aviation security defenses. Before September 11th, federal law requires the FAA to set and enforce aviation security policies and regulations that would protect passengers and property on an aircraft operating in airspace or intrastate air transportation against an act of criminal violence or aircraft piracy. The layered system, one that recognized that no single security measure was flawless or impenetrable, was designed to provide a greater number of opportunities to foil those intended to do such violence. Now, the civil aviation security system in place on September 11th was composed of 7 layers of defense, including intelligence, passenger pre-screening, airport access control, passenger checkpoint screening, passenger check baggage screening, cargo screening, and on-board security. The civil aviation security system in place on September 11th no longer exists. And that is because some of these protocols were violated even before September 11, 2001. So what happened at the FAA regarding the initial hijacks? Was any protocols followed? Now, if we are to go with the initial attack, which was American Airlines Flight 11, well, this is from Chapter 1 of the 9/11 Commission report. And I'm going to read you the following. Military notification and response. Boston Center did not follow the protocol in seeking military assistance through the prescribed chain of command. In addition to notifications within the FAA, Boston Center took the initiative at 8:34 to contact the military through the FAA's Cape Cod facility. The center also tried to contact a former alert site in Atlantic City, unaware has been phased out. At 8:37:52, Boston Center reached needs. This was the first notification received by the military at any level that American 11 have been hijacked. And as you can see, FAA, High Boston Center, TMU, Traffic Management Unit. We have a problem here. We have a hijacked aircraft heading towards New York. We need you guys. We need someone to scramble F-16s or something up there. Help us out. Needs. Is this real world or exercise? FAA, no, this is not an exercise, not a test. Needs ordered to battle stations 2 F-15 alert aircraft at Otis Air Force Base, Massachusetts, which is 153 miles away from New York City. The Air Defense of America began with this call. However, here's the problem with this, is that they don't know what plane they're intercepting because the transponder was turned off. Now, even though the transponder is turned off, they could still see the blip on the screen. However, the altitude and the serial number of the plane is not on the screen, so they can't relay that information to the military. And so this is the problem. Now, with that, what Monte Belger is saying is that he doesn't know what was happening at New York Center regarding the initial hijacking because the person there relaying this information didn't have all the necessary information to pass over to the command center and then relay it to the military. And then Bob Kerrey is like, well, why didn't this guy have any help? And that's because Belger is saying, I don't know. Either the FAA really dropped the ball here, or did they basically commit malfeasance and that they don't want to take the blame for what happened on September 11, 2001, even though they're not totally at fault here. And there's a number of different entities that reacted inappropriately or didn't react at all. And there are some entities that basically really committed almost egregious crimes. And that's the CIA and the NSA. We're talking about domestic agencies, not foreign entities. Regarding their hesitancy or their willful intrusion and not sharing information with the proper authorities.
Yes, but why did you put somebody on the phone that knew nothing?
I didn't put anybody on that
Well, who
phone
did?
call. I don't know. That's what I said, sir.
Well,
Right, see,
now-
now we have this broken protocol. He doesn't know. Of course, he probably should know. He's the acting director of the FAA. You know, shit trickles down, not upwards, right? So this guy has to know. I mean, you know, we have Jane Garvey, Ben Sliney, you know, the real regional directors of the FAA. But I mean, even though he's the acting director, he still would have to know.
I will tell you though, this is very, very important in response to your question. The NMC, and this is an assumption on my part, I'll say that right up front, because I said earlier, I did not specifically ask this question. One of the millions of questions I wish I would have asked this morning, but I didn't. At 9:20, the NMCC was called. They were added to this open communication net. In my 30 years of history, there was always somebody listening to that net.
well,
Real-time
Let-
information.
let me move the
That
second-
was the purpose of
let me
it.
move to my second one then, Mr. Belger. Now, I'm not going to have very many to get. I mean, I got a long list here that I could do. I'm not going to get them in 5 minutes. Let's talk about 93. Wheels up at 8:42. At 9:28, Cleveland confirms a hijack. You know it at 9:34. Now we have this conversation at 9:49, 13 minutes afterwards, where Cleveland initially had said, are you going to put planes in the air? And somebody at headquarters should do something about it. They called back. And I presume you've seen the staff statement where they replay the conversation. Command center, we want to think about scrambling aircraft. Command Center says, FAA headquarters says, oh, God, I don't know. Command Center, that's a decision somebody's going to have to make the next 10 minutes. FAA headquarters, you know, everybody just left the room. I mean, do we have this out of context?
Huge. So no, he doesn't have a guy. He's got it right. And this woman's face says it all, right? So who's in charge of the FAA at the height of all these hijackings? If Monte Belger is not making decisions, if Jane Garvey is not making decisions, if Ben Sliney is the only one who made a real decision here. He actually ordered the stand down. He's a freaking hero. But it seems everybody here is passing the buck at the FAA regarding this egregious, gross negligence, a broken protocol. Now, at the same time, they're also not getting any type of help regarding the military, because the military is running a number of different exercises. So even if they got information from the FAA on time, could they have reached those planes on time? I don't know. What we do know is that when Otis responded to New York, it was 10 minutes too late. You know how much ground they could cover in 10 minutes? You know, hundreds of miles per hour, 700, 800 miles an hour. But, you know, this is really just a, you know, nothing more than gross negligence on the part of the FAA.
I mean, there was no information delivered to the military that a plane was coming into Washington, D.C. And again, thank God the passengers of 93 took the plane over. But a plane was heading to Washington, D.C. FAA headquarters knew it and didn't let the military know.
Well, if I can, and I truly did not mean this to be defensive, but it is a fact. There were military people on duty at the FAA Command Center, as Mr. Sliney said. They were participating in what was going on. There were military people in the FAA's air traffic organization in a situation room. They were participating in what was going on. To my knowledge, the NMCC was added to the conference call, the open conference call, at 9:20. By 9:45 or so, my attention was completely on getting the airplanes and the hundreds of thousands of passengers safely on the ground. There was an FAA security person running the hijack net. I had confidence that they were doing the right things.
Well, let me move on to my third one. And deals.
You know, and later on, by the way, Ralph Eberhardt, commander of NORAD, he basically, and you could see this on my channel, I have it uploaded on the 9/11 Commission playlist. He basically said that if the FAA had given him, or NORAD, the operations center in Cheyenne Mountain, if they had gotten the information on time regarding the hijacked flights, you know, he stated that all 4 flights could have been intercepted. Now, notice how he didn't say shot down, because they didn't get that order yet until much later. And that's another broken protocol regarding military chain of command. But yet, that's armchair quarterbacking. Would he have gotten in time? You know, so then what was the problem with Flight 77? I mean, the media reported that a half hour before it even crashed in the Pentagon. What was the excuse then?
Something you've said, but actually this Administrator Garvey was much more vocal about this. We were watching for something happening overseas. Let me deal into that a little bit. Bajinka happens in '95. FAA sent somebody over to Manila. Are you familiar with that? Are you familiar with the FAA sending a representative over to Manila?
Yes.
And what did they come back and say? What did that person report after going over to Manila and finding out that a member of Al-Qaeda was going to hijack 12 American airplanes in a suicide fashion? I've got to get both words in here, because you all say, geez, I didn't think they could commit suicide. There were 10 attacks by Al-Qaeda against the United States from 1992 to 2001, and 9 of them were suicide. We knew by then that bin Laden was going to come after the United States. So what did the guy report when he came back in 1995? What did he tell you? And what was your response to it?
Well, my recollection, and I do not have specific recollection of what was said, but my general recollection was that the threat at that time, and continued up through September 11, was really directed outside the borders of the United States.
Now hold on, time out. In the Bajinka dossier report written by Rodolfo Mendoza, the lead investigator, who is interrogating Abdul Hakim Murad, who is an associate of Ramzi Youssef, who is involved with the Bajinka plot, stated that there was a secret plot in the Bajinka plot, which is outlined in the hard drive of the computer that the investigators got out of the hotel room, where it basically stated that there were sleeper cells inside the United States. Not Al Qaeda, by the way. This is, I don't know why Kerrey attributes this to Al Qaeda. Ramzi Youssef was not Al Qaeda. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was not Al Qaeda at this point. Abdul Hakim Murad was not Al Qaeda. Right? That the sleeper cells inside the United States were waiting word regarding the operations that were going to involve 10 planes, where they would hijack 10 planes and crash them all over the intercontinental United States. Mendoza said he handed this report after it was finalized to the FBI. Now, did the FBI share that protocol? Well, according to the FBI, yes. That protocol, the report was shared with the FAA, with Immigration Naturalization Services, with the National Military Command Center, with the local and state authorities of the United States, intercontinental United States. Nobody acted on it. Nobody brought up stricter security measures for airlines. The FAA certainly did it. So they did drop the ball there.
1998, after the East African Embassy bombing, Mr. Belger, it was in the newspaper that the United States of America federal government arrested 2 suspects that were in the United States. One in California, one in Texas.
Ali Muhammad.
Why would you reach that conclusion?
That's the 2 people he's referring to. Wadi al-Hajj owned the residence in Houston, and Ali Muhammad, who was a triple agent for the FBI, the CIA, and Osama bin Laden, and Omar Abdul Rahman and Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri. And it was Ali Muhammad who basically were training members of the Al-Farouk Mosque in Brooklyn on small arms fire and building of bombs. He was also a member of the U.S. military here in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. When they arrested him, they basically investigated, the investigators interviewed him and said that he would give combat training to these people that would be involved with terrorism inside the United States.
That they were only going to attack outside the United States.
The conclusion I reached, sir, was based on the intelligence information that was given to me.
And he's not totally wrong, right? So the CIA, when the members of the Counterterrorism Center, basically the Bin Laden issue station, codename Alex Station, when the information came in about Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, the FBI read this report that they were coming, that these guys had U.S. visas, and tried to warn their superiors in Washington, D.C., in which they were told not to share the information because it's not the FBI's jurisdiction. Why? Because the CIA said that we think the next attack is in Southeast Asia. Is that same report, threat report, shared with agencies inside the United States? Well, Monte Belger wouldn't be wrong then. But the CIA isn't right there either, because they're inside the United States and they're coming inside the United States. They're not going to Southeast Asia. They're not going anywhere else. And they knew that these 2 guys were Al Qaeda. So, does Monte Belger get all the blame here? No. That's why I said there are a number of agencies that deserve blame for either their gross negligence, their malfeasance, or their intentional withholding of information that is pertinent to certain agencies.
I mean, I can't be any more,
I'm talking
can't
about
be any
stuff
more
that's
clear.
reported in the newspaper. It doesn't come from CIA. That's right out of the darn newspaper.
hopefully, I don't know, sir. I don't remember reading that.
You're in
personally.
luck. My time has expired.
So, yeah, I mean, goodness gracious. Monte Belger did himself no favors with these answers and basically said, I don't know. I don't know. It sounds, he sounds very much like, the heads of the intelligence community. So I don't know. I'll find out for you. I don't know that name. I don't, everyone's passing the buck when it comes to blame something as catastrophic as 9/11. And you know what? Just like with the intelligence communities, nobody in the domestic agencies of the airline industry, none of them got fired except for Frank Argenbright, who was the manager of Argenbright Security. And it wasn't even his fault that the hijackers got through security screening through lax security. That's not his fault. But he took the blame. He's the only person who ever got fired. Monte Belger didn't get fired, neither did Jane Garvey. But much like with 9/11, everybody seemed to got either promoted or got passed over for punishment. And that's the problem that we're trying to rectify today with, new information that's coming out. And hopefully, we have a new generation that's far more responsible than the past generations called the Truth Movement has ever been, because they've been nothing but irresponsible in regards to holding anyone accountable for 9/11 with their inane theories and, of course, with the ignorance regarding the mass public, because they're not getting any help from the institutions of government and the media, who basically won't tell them the truth.